Now, back in that day, we had this Korean receptionist, and she was funny because her actual name was Soon-jin, but she went by the name of Crystal because she thinks it sounded much sexier when she'd answer the phones and when she was out meeting people. She didn't like Soon-jin as an exotic name or as something that came across as sexy, so that's what she went by as Crystal. I don't know where she got the name from, but it was funny because it was just her persona, and she kind of developed a personality to go with the name as opposed to the name to go with the personality. And she used to be just convinced that, Prince Harry was going to call one day, and she would jump from the reception desk into the limo to go pick him up, and he'd fall madly in love with her. So she was just infatuated with him, pictures of him on her desk and everything. It was awesome. And I swear, she always dressed, whether it was reception or driving the limos when she wasn't working reception, and she always dressed like there was a proposal going to happen at the airport pickup. And yeah, she was just awesome. And let me tell you, if the phone rang and the guy she thought sounded ginger, whatever that means, but if he sounded ginger, she'd damn near faint. And that's not customer service. Let's face it, that's delusional HR liability at its best. And yeah, it was great. And as you develop relationships with people, it's amazing how many people think that dogs are their best friend. And that's when you get to the point where you get tired of talking to real people and decide that dogs are much better. But let me tell you, they say dogs are man's best friend, and I strongly disagree with that. Because if I came into the house and found my best friend had chewed my furniture, crapped on my bed, and took a break from licking his own balls long enough to come and sniff mine, that would not be my best friend for long. Unless, of course, maybe, you hang out with Sean Puffy Combs there. But, it's just not my idea of a best friend. And let me tell you, when you look at Sean Diddy Combs and all of that craziness, of course, you know that he was a trendsetter. He pushed the stocks down on baby oil long before Donald Trump pushed the stocks down on everything else in the world in the markets. So, at least he was a trendsetter, even if he's doing it from incarceration. Now, the bright side is that, hey, maybe one day he'll actually be cellmates with Trump and they can compare notes. Now, of course, you notice here that one side of my hair, well, I'm getting gray on both sides, let's face it. But at the end of the day, I started going gray on one side before the other. And my kids used to tease me about that. And I'd always tell them, that the reason for that is because this is the side I hold the phone to when my ex-wife calls or their mother. And that was a good reason for them. It's awesome. But what they don't tell you when you're younger and you're growing up is that your hair isn't actually going to disappear. You're not losing your hair. It's just sprouting out in different areas than it used to. I've lost a bit of a hairline here, but I never had to pluck hairs out of my ears or my nose when I was younger. If I don't do that, I'm going to look like an Ewok coming out in a Gremlins movie. And let's face it, I can't afford to get any uglier than I already am. That's just scary. But yeah, it is, the dark side, the side that wasn't gray. That was just a reminder of my younger years when hope was alive and my dreams still returned my calls. But that's not the case anymore. Now I just get calls about an expired car warranty and threats from an ex-wife's lawyer. So just moving on there. But let's face it, women are smarter than men. You see, men, we are always looking for the perfect woman. And women, well, they just look for a fixer-upper. And that's the reality of it. They see a guy with potential, slap some ambition, some paint over the trauma, call it a relationship. And, we could have different shows about that. For example, HGTV for Hearts could come out with a new show called This Old Spouse. We take a commitment phobe with two exes and turn him into a Pinterest husband with a working dishwasher. So, yeah, it is, the men know or should know that we aren't going to get the 10, but, we still live in that dream world. And then there's all of that online sex, all the online dating. Let's face it, if you were going to pick something up online, it is not something you're going to want to keep. You get better luck finding something that you want to take home and show mom by fishing in a sewage treatment plant. And that's the reality of online dating. And as for computer sex, let's face it, those fans hurt, and especially when you get your pubic hair stuck in them as they spin around in that computer. And then I found out that's not quite what they meant, and I was a little embarrassed when I had to carry that computer to the hospital to get them to trim those hairs off. But hey, ladies also have different thoughts about men. Men, we just get tattoos and we just go about our day, and sometimes they have meanings, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're misspelled and we just don't give a shit. Now, women, you've got to think about tattoos a bit differently. Now, let's face it, when you are 20, 21 years old and you get a butterfly tattooed across your belly, that may be beautiful, it may be cool, and it may represent your personality or individuality, but by the time you're 60, it looks like a prehistoric creature that's wheezing for air, and that is how they don't age gracefully, so you've got to pick something functional. Get a garter snake on your chest. When you're 80 years old, it's long enough to wrap around your neck like a support anaconda. And let's face it, everybody needs a support anaconda, don't you? Now, as I said, I used to run a limo company, real high-end. We served politicians, we served athletes, celebrities, musicians, you name it. And the fleet was just like the politicians. The fleet was built to look amazing on the outside, but like most of the entertainers, they were completely broken on the inside. And you haven't lived until you try explaining to Snoop Dogg's manager why the minibar only has Sprite and 3 Tic Tacs. Yeah, let's just face it, that's like a scene out of a Cheech and Chong movie for the higher level and I mean higher level in several ways. But hey, if Snoop Dogg's out there, hey, come on the show, we'll give you a cameo and we'll have some fun. And, I noticed after COVID that I'd put on some weight. And how I noticed this is that I went to the beach one day and I was laying there enjoying the sunshine, the sand, and all of a sudden Greenpeace showed up, started throwing live salmon at me and calling me Shamu, trying to tow me back to deeper waters. Let me tell you, that was a day I'll never forget. But hey, I got a free sushi lunch out of it, so that's all right. Now, when you look at the limo business, though, transitioning back to that, bachelorette parties. Now, they are out of control. Women all want to be seen as the prim, the proper, this, the that, and think that the men are the pigs. But let me tell you, there is nothing more funny than driving a bachelorette party when you're cruising the town. They've got inflatables hanging out the sunroof, as well as throwing dildos at people on the sidewalk. Now, that's a party. And that's one you've got to enjoy. And let me tell you another thing. I actually learned from a bachelorette party. One of the girls showed me how to make a perfect silhouette of a Mickey Mouse. And by that, I meant the windows of the limo were steamed up and she yelled at me to watch as she lifted her shirt, pressed her belly and her tits on the glass, and lo and behold, it was a perfect silhouette of Mickey Mouse. You gotta like it when they have that much fun and bring you in on it. Now, it's just a matter of, looking at it as an episode of Disney After Dark, and let's face it, Disney could use some good news these days and some good ratings, so maybe they should consider the Mickey Mouse Silhouette Club. Now, as I said, we're working on the sitcom, and that is a great thing. The crew, the cast, we're calling it Stretched because the cast of the show is stretched for money, stretched for patience, and stretched like a bachelorette on top shelf tequila. And that's what it's all about.